All right, if we take a look at this process. Step 1 is to find the LCD and to write it as a single fraction. So when we look at this first step, there are no factors in the denominators other than what's there, so those are the LCD factors. So when we write our answer for this, we need a factor of x plus h. We also need a factor of x, which is not already there. So I'm going to write the monomial factor first. There's our LCD. As you begin to write this as a single fraction, we're going to take the numerator of our first fraction and multiply by any LCD factor that's missing from its denominator. So what LCD factor is missing from this denominator? It's missing the x. And then minus the next fraction's numerator, 1. And again, on these I will always write the ones because it just illustrates what calculation is going to occur. So what LCD factor is missing from this second fraction's denominator? X plus h. And so we can move to the second step, which is to combine your numerator. So when you take your numerator, distribute through, we have an x. Distribute your -1, a minus x, and a minus h. So I'm just going to combine it down these columns here. X minus x cancels. So all you're left with is a negative h. That's going to go in the numerator. Your x and your x plus h stay in the denominator. Your final step on this would be to simplify your fraction completely. And so that would involve factoring, canceling factors, identifying domain restrictions. Nothing cancels here, so it's left just as it is. All right, moving to the second example. Okay, following these same steps, finding the LCD means you have to identify factors of all your denominators. X minus 1 is a factor. X plus 1 is a factor. Well, x squared minus 1 can be factored further. It's the sum and difference of the terms being squared, so an x plus 1, x minus 1. So here when we find our LCD, we need to have a factor of x minus 1, a factor of x plus 1. We already have this factor. We already have this factor. And so that's all you have to do. That is your LCD. It's just those two factors. And don't repeat them unless there's multiple or repeated factors in one denominator. So now we can rewrite this as a single fraction. So we take our first fraction's numerator times what LCD factor was missing from this fraction's denominator. It's missing the x plus 1, plus the next fraction's numerator times what LCD factor was missing from its denominator, x minus 1, and then minus the next fraction's numerator. Now notice I put this whole numerator in parentheses. That's important. That's the most common place for mistakes, is especially coming after negatives and not distributing it correctly. But what LCD factor is missing from this fraction's denominator? Nothing. So you just leave it as it is, or you can write a 1 there if you want, but it doesn't, there's nothing being multiplied by that. And so now we can combine our numerator. We have a 2x, a plus 2, we have a 3x, a minus 3, we have a negative 4x, and we have a negative times a negative becomes a positive x squared. So if I combine down my column, I get x squared, I get a net of plus x, I get a net of minus 1. Okay, so here's my numerator, x squared plus x minus 1, and my denominator stays as it was. The factors x minus 1 and x plus 1. Now, we go to our last step here, simplify. Okay. Can you factor this numerator? Are there any factors of -1 whose sum is +1? No. So you leave it as it is. This is your factored form as well, or your simplified form as well.